Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comics. It is Sunday, so it is time for our Watchmen breakdown. Mike, we are near the end. Chapter 11,
11.
the
Wow.
second to last of this. So we will be wrapping up the series next week. And then obviously you and I are going to have a video after that talking about the overall legacy of Watchmen as well. But we get Chapter 11. I did it 35 minutes ago. Maybe one of the most famous panels
Yeah.
in all of comics. But before we get there, there was about 20 or so pages before that explaining how we got there. Mike, I'll kick it to you to kind of start. What were your thoughts on issue or chapter 11 of Watchmen?
It, for all the buildup, and we're finally here. They have sought out Veidt, and they have gone to Antarctica. They have followed the trail of clues, and but still, they really don't know until the end of this issue, like what his crazy mad scientist plan is.
Hmm.
And of course, this is a big trope with fiction, where the evil villain has the plot to destroy the earth, and
Hmm.
and invite is no different. What gives this issue the most gravitas to me is, you know, uh, I don't like Veidt as a character. Of course, you're not supposed to. He's the villain, right? And a cast of unsavory characters. He's the least
He's the word.
savory.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the least savory, right? And so um, his his vanity and everything really comes through in this issue, especially when you see that, and this has been done too to an extent, his admiration for Alexander the Great.
Hmm.
So he pulls you into this whole thing where I traveled the road and, I wanted to be like him, but then I realized I really couldn't. There's lots of great Easter eggs in here. The elephant motif comes back because famously, when Alexander the Great got to India, he had to fight armies that, rode elephants.
Hmm.
And that was, a sight to behold, I'm sure, in antiquity. Very frightening. And of course, Veidt's plan is to drop this alien elephant, whatever it's going to
Yeah.
be. And and so he is, and then there's this little scene, and Gibbons does it beautifully in the street scene in the background where you see some floating like elephant. I don't know if it's a dirigible or some kid's balloon or whether, but it's floating in the background.
Hmm.
So, Alexander the Great comes to the end of the known world, and there he's confronted with an army that frightens him because, the elephant, and it's such a massive beast, and how do you control it? And so I think, Moore is trying to compare and contrast, Alexander the Great versus modern times, and is the elephant the ultimate war weapon of war in antiquity compared to nuclear arms? It comes to be too much. Um, and and then the shipwrecked man. We got to talk about that one
Yeah, the way he
in a
weaves
minute.
the narrative into it.
But it's just so layered. And like right before this call with you, I was like, I thought I'm coming to the end of this issue. I still got 10 more pages, which just goes to show you like how much story is packed into all of these
These
pages.
26 pages. Yeah,
Yeah.
what amount we're getting. I think one of the coolest things that this chapter does, and this is one of the great things of why this work stands out so much, is you get a whole chapter basically explaining the pathos of the villain, and it plays upon, like you said, the common trope, right? Superman goes to confront Lex Luthor, and before Lex Luthor executes his plan, he lectures Superman about why he did the plan, how he did the plan, the weaknesses of the plan, and then Superman can stop it, right? I think only one of the cool fictional things they flipped on his head. I loved that scene, and it was Age of Ultron where Ultron's talking to the Avengers. He goes, "I'm so glad you asked because I wanted to take this time to explain my evil plan." Right, like kind of that. I thought that
Yeah.
was such a cool thing to explain the full pathos of Adrian. He's having this conversation with them, and you, the whole time, you as a reader, you've seen this in comics so many times, be it the Green Goblin, Lex Luthor, the Joker, wherever, where they explain that rug pull at the end of "I did it 35 minutes ago." You, as a reader, feel the same thing in that you have read how many comics where you see the villain's backstory and what the villain's done and the hero stop it. And this, it does the same thing almost to you as a reader that's being done to Night Owl and to Rorschach in this scene. I think the other thing that's really cool with this is um, I loved the supporting characters in the street in New York because we've seen these random slice of life things through the newsstand, right? We've met five or six of these characters. You probably don't even remember the names of most of the people in
Right.
this because they just pop up so romantic. You got the kid reading the comic books, you've got the news vendor, and you've got different people coming in there. And you kind of see them all clashing and losing. You see the effect the world is having on all of these people and they start fighting, and then that's literally kind of the point of origination of where Adrian's plan comes together. And it just shows how much more thought all this through. That even these small size, these would be the extras, right, in a movie
Yeah.
that has such emotional resonance that these people you've been seeing one or two pages per issue are kind of at the detonation point of where Veidt's plan goes off to sort of, no matter how much Veidt takes it as, hey man, larger picture, sacrificing the one for the many kind of thing. Because as a reader, you've seen these characters every issue. That really hits well. That's that haunting page at the end where the bomb goes and the vendor and the kid hug each other, and then it's just sort of all white and blunted.
Yeah.
It's really powerful how Moore delivered that.
Yeah, it has a payoff for these sub characters who, when done right, really help flesh out a story.
Mm-hmm.
In case in point, the psychologist for Rorschach,
Rorschach in there, yeah.
yeah, and he's like, I gotta try, the scene is breaking down, people are on edge, and he's got to go and try and help these two that are fighting, and I just think it was really done masterfully. And then we got to talk about the shipwrecked man because
Okay.
that part of the story is near and dear to my
I
heart.
know, yeah, that's the part that really engages you with this story.
I love it. And in this issue, you see the complete descent into madness, as though the rest of the story of the shipwrecked man wasn't. And they even mention it, in one of the lines he says, he references Into the Heart of Darkness,
Mm-hmm.
which is classic. And so the shipwrecked man wanders into this village, and in his demented mind, he's created this world where the pirates have completely taken over, which is also his hometown, which is also, kind of what Veidt imagines the world is like, the powers that be have completely taken over and messed everything up,
Mm-hmm.
and then he goes in and, accidentally in his fever dream, imagines the pirates have taken over his house. He ends up killing his wife in front of his two kids, and he's completely lost his mind. And then he swims out to, the pirate ship that's anchored. Like, it hasn't happened yet, but it's already here. And in his mind, it already happened, but they were just anchored offshore. It was about to happen. And it just, coincides with the story so perfectly.
I
Of
love a
course, that
fight.
was, yeah, the whole plan for Veidt to enact this plan. He's really lost his mind. He's gone off the deep end. And in fact, maybe it had actually caused what he was trying to avoid.
Yeah.
So,
He ends up, yeah, I mean, it's very much he ends up doing the very thing that he was worried about happening. And I think that's one of the cool things about this thing is, granted, it's never going to be at a nuclear scale, but I think so many of us have, what Moore does so well is he ingrains some of these things that as human beings we've experienced in our own lives, not at this same scale, but there's been plenty of times that we as people have had where you fear something's going to happen and you take it a preventative action and you end up actually causing the actual result you were trying to avoid. And I think that touches a lot on, no matter how distant from humanity Veidt seems in this, that's something you could actually kind of look at and go, no, not at that scale, obviously. But I think all of us have been where you so badly want to prevent something from happening and then you end up making it happen because of your actions. I think the cool thing with this that Moore explores so well is how hopelessly outgunned the heroes are too. I think that scene where Rorschach and him are there, it again flips completely on the head the superhero comic book of if this is Batman and Blue Beetle or whoever going to question the bad guy, they're going to beat the crap out of him. And in this, Ozymandias is barely paying any attention to them,
Yeah,
and he's swatting them away, as though they're not even there. And again, that's a great device by Moore, and that this is the issue where this is the superhero comic. We're used to this. Confront the bad guy at his base and stop his nefarious plan and save the day. And none of that happens here. And it's what clinches Veidt is one of the best villains in all of comic books, in that he's truly the guy who outsmarted the heroes, thought everything through. I think the cool piece that I take away from Ozymandias, and we'll talk about this with 13, is, or when we do the video after we get to the end of the story, it almost shows the dangerousness of the thing that's actually more dangerous than evil sometimes is indifference. And that I think sometimes you see someone like Veidt who has truly just lost his complete connection to humanity, where all he sees is the end result and sacrificing however many people he needs to, whether that's killing people he knows, like the comedian, because they might get in the way. We see him callously kill those three guys at the beginning, where he kind of, I think, either
yeah,
drugs them or poisons them and then just kind of buries them in the snow. You see how he is so dispassionate in what he's doing. It's a genuinely, it reminded me a little bit, and I don't know if you've seen the movie No Country for Old Men, that
yeah,
villain Javier Bardem plays, where he's just so
yeah,
distant from humanity. It's the
yeah.
supervillain equivalent of that. And it's a great
He's like
idea for the villain.
he's like the shipwrecked man. He's
Hmm.
completely rudderless and lost, and he's
Yep.
floating along on the corpses of, his paranoid dreams.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's a great. I would say, some of it's a little bit too decompressed in this issue for my taste. For it, I think this is the first issue where I was like, speed it up a bit. But the delivery in the end, it all seems so intentional. I think that's a huge part. You're lulled into this sense of, okay, I know how this is going to go. That rug pull of the I did it 35 minutes ago. It's one of the all-time shock pay. I can't imagine. Again, this is where you and I reading this one week at a time and one issue at a time trying to piece it through. You get as much as you can. But man, I can't imagine having been, on the stands in '86 when this thing came out, ripping through and seeing that page. How much that would hit you of like, oh my gosh, wow, they failed. Like we just don't get moments like that all that often. And sadly, because so many people know Watchmen, you know that even if you've never read it, you know it's coming, but it still hits you by surprise. It's an amazing twist.
It really was. And like you said, so many comics, they arrived just in time, you know,
Mm.
and no, they did not arrive just in time. And and that's just typical of this story, just to, crush all the major tropes of all the superheroes and just completely tear the plot down, to its core, and make everybody fallible, you
No, in
know?
all likelihood, Rorschach and Night Owl were speeding across the snow, trying to get
Yeah,
to the base when the thing they were trying to stop happened, and
yeah.
it's really, really well executed. But yeah, that's our thoughts on chapter 11. 1 week to go. Can't believe we're at the end. Chapter 12, we will be there for the conclusion of Watchmen, and then we'll have one video after that where we just talk about our overall thoughts and really, really break down whether we think it's the greatest story of all time. But let us know. What do you guys think down below? What are your thoughts on Chapter 11 of Watchmen? How have you enjoyed the story so far? Whether you're a veteran reader of it or if it's your first read through, let us know what you think, folks. As always, thank you for watching. God bless you. We will catch you in our next video, folks.
Thanks, everybody.